Keep George Bush out!
Keep
George Bush out!
Keep
George Bush out!
Keep
George Bush out! Keep George Bush out!
Keep Bush out!
Keep George Bush out!
Keep George Bush out!
Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out!
Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep
George Bush out!
the law!
Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George Bush out! Keep George
the law!
Keep George Bush out! Keep
Enforce the law! Keep George Bush out!
the law!
Their own. There's even a group in Canada. You know, Bush is supposed to go to Canada later this year, and a group that is going to try to engage that there. I think the world is shrinking for him, as it has shrunk in the past for Kissinger and other people who have engaged in what the world understands as human rights violations. And so,
it's DJ Ball here with We Are Change Vancouver. We are outside of Surrey City Hall, where I've got Splitting the Sky here. Today is May 2nd. It's Election Day in Canada. We're here to actually send a message to Diane Watts. Mayor Diane Watts has invited George Bush to come collect his blood money in October. Splitting the Sky, tell me about what we're doing here today.
Well, basically, DJ, the reason we're here is on October the 20th, George Bush and Bill Clinton will be coming to Surrey, BC to attend an economic summit at the request and the invitation of the mayor of Surrey, BC here, Diane Watts. And this economics...
The Canadian Crimes Against Humanities and War Crimes Act, passed in 2000, is very clear that Canada is not to be a haven for war criminals. Canada is not to be a haven for war criminals. George Bush is the most obvious war criminal on the planet.
That's right.
Okay.
Thanks for flying in from Calgary.
Yeah.
Joshua flew in for Calgary from this
Yeah.
hours.
Josh
But Josh, tell me
is,
why you're here and why you found it.
a student
why you
who's
deem
doing
it
a master's
important that you're
thesis.
today.
Yeah, well, we're here to
9/11.
tell Diane what's what. You know, we're here to tell her that we want the rule of law to be upheld, and that really this is a part of the world that has quite a good reputation. Those of us who live in Alberta, a place notorious for being quite right-wing. I mean, we look at this part of the world, the West Coast, and we look at it as a kind of liberal place. And liberalism, of course, means respect for the rule of law and equality under the law. And so we're here to educate Diane Watt, the mayor of this part, Surrey, on the law, in order to hope that she might change her mind, to dissuade her from hosting George Bush, who's coming to this part of the world soon to give a speech. And at her behest, she's hosting him. And so, I mean, of all the people in the world, you could invite scientists, philosophers, artists. Why invite George Bush?
To an economic forum, which I find is a little silly considering his track record with economics.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the plan now for you guys? Splitting the Sky we have over here. Come on over here, Splitting the Sky. I've also got over here John Boncourt, aka Splitting the Sky. He was our man in Calgary that was brave enough to try to break through the citizens, to perform a citizen's arrest on George Bush in Calgary. He was arrested for that. We've got Professor Tony Hall, Joshua Blakeney, Splitting the Sky here. Now what's the plan of action now, guys? Now you're going to walk over to the office and hand over the papers and let Diane Watts know exactly what laws she's breaking and being in violation of? Is that the plan?
Absolutely, yeah. As you see, there was two RCMP officers, out of uniform, but they came over here and respectfully inquired as to what we were about to do, and was our protest was peaceful. I said, of course it's peaceful. It's always been peaceful. What we're trying to do is we're trying to advise the Crown and all of the Crown's agents that the fact that this is a self-confessed, credibly accused war criminal by the name of George Bush, as well as Bill Clinton. I mean, Bill Clinton, bombed the hell out of Kosovo and the Serbian peoples, and so therefore these are war criminals that are coming to Canada. But in this,
we mobilized along with Splitting the Sky in Calgary to point out to law enforcement officials in 2009 that there is a Canadian Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act. And there's copious international treaties and laws that George Bush has clearly violated. Of course, Bush is a figurehead in a way, but he was the signing agency for the most notorious cabal of organized criminals on the planet.
It's totally unacceptable. As Canadians, many of our troops, hundreds of our boys and girls that went over there over to Afghanistan are dead because of a bogus war on terror.
The mayor said this is apolitical. It's got nothing to do with politics. This is a business conference.
Now there is a mayor. Can I intervene?
If I can ask, explain this stuff.
Well, listen. Let's get to that business thing. It's apolitical. The reality is, if you're saying it's economics, well, it is political because I'll tell you what. When they come over here into British Columbia, they're talking about running all of our resources down into the U.S. They're talking about running our hydro, our fresh water systems. They're talking about running our railroad down there. They're talking about importing pipelines from Alberta all the way to the Gateway North and to poison and possibly the salmon runs. They're talking about coming in here and expropriating more resources on unsurrendered Indian territories beyond a treaty frontier. It's not business.
Would you say torture a political issue?
Torture is a political issue. You can't say that it's an economic issue. They're coming here to discuss economics, but in the meantime, this guy's got a track record, and he should be indicted for war crimes for allowing torture and violations of the Geneva Conventions. And eventually, somebody from the International Criminal Court is going to make that indictment against him. He was afraid to go to Switzerland just recently because 2 former detainees that were tortured threatened to hit him with the lawsuit as soon as he got off the plane. He wouldn't go there. And that lawsuit was brought up by the Center for Constitutional Rights in New York City. So he was scared to jump off that plane, and hopefully we can find some former detainees that are willing to sue him and bring charges against him so that when he steps off the plane here, he can be arrested.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from New York.
Push out!
All right, so you know what I'll do? When that representative comes out, I'm going to read the law to her or him and let him know exactly what this Refugees Act is. So once they have been officially notified of what the law is, then they are then responsible for upholding the law. But if they don't uphold the law, then they are complicit in war crimes.
Enforce the law!
Jeff, give me a class of Sarah.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you? All right. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. How are you? All right. We're here to. Your name is what again?
Tara.
Tara. Okay, Tara. My name is William Sky. These are my colleague, Professor Tony Hall back here, Joshua Blakey, and many members of the 9/11 Truth Commission, or the 9/11 Truth is here.
I'm a Canadian against torture. That's why I'm
Canadian
here.
against torture. We are change. Okay. What we're here for today is we would like to present you with these papers here, basically saying that George Bush, who at one point it was a credibly accused war criminal, but now he's a self-confessed war criminal. Now, the mayor of Surrey, D.C. here, Diane Watts, has invited George Bush and Bill Clinton for an economic summit on October the 20th of this year. And we're saying this is totally unacceptable. We cannot allow a war criminal into Canada. This guy's a self-confessed war criminal. He violated Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions against the use of torture in warfare. He admitted in his book that he in fact allowed his judiciary, the Justice Department, his lawyers, he told them to bend the law and break the law, and they allowed for waterboarding. All right, so many people were waterboarded, tortured, and died. 96 people died subsequent. So George Bush technically should be charged with torture and of murder. So we're saying Canada has on the books. I would like to read just one clause to you, if you don't mind. And so everybody is a witness here, because once you as law enforcement agents, once you have appraised the law, then it's your duty and our duty to uphold that law. Okay.
Don't be politicians.
So as you know, as you know,
I want you to enforce the law. So here we're coming together in a respectful way. We're meeting at the Surrey City Hall, which should be a community center where we feel good, where we feel that everybody is represented in places like this, that it's not just a place where a few rich people come and do all their corruption and then get the police corrupted. When there's a street person drunk and disorderly on the street, does a police officer say, I have to phone the mayor?
I have to phone the Prime Minister to ask if I can arrest him. The idea that you will be told, the police will be told, no, this is an internationally protected person, that is not true. This is a civilian. He is no longer a head of state.
Behind it, many of us feel that the full facts of 9/11 have never been properly addressed by officials, that there was a concoction on 9/11 that has yet to be addressed.
Of course, what's the war on terror facilitated? It's facilitated the globalization of the Israel-Palestine conflict, right? Making Israel then Canada, the US, Britain, and so on. You look who the neoconservatives were. Nearly the preponderance of George Bush's policy advisors were ideologically partial to Israel, the state of Israel.
Concrete makes
Yeah, and so I think that to acknowledge the Zionist aspect of the war on terror and of 9/11, it must be said, because there was Mossad agents apprehended in New York City on 9/11 after they received a truckload of explosives on the George Washington Bridge. And so I think that
they refused to allow George Galloway into the country, saying that he was in violation of that same law that should have kept George Bush out. In other words, referring that George Galloway was a war criminal, but in reality he wasn't.
Well, in Stephen Harper's Canada now, peace activists are terrorists and torturers are welcome.
Yes, absolutely.
For that matter, but it's very important that we have law enforcement officials that can stand up to politicians and say, no, the law is supposed to apply to everybody uniformly, whether you're rich, whether you're a former head of state, and we don't have that in the world right now. We clearly have a situation where there is a class of people who are above the law, and in that cabal who are in that position, we see the most serious, elaborate, organized crime that the planet has ever seen. It makes Al Capone's Chicago look like child's play, the kind of...
So that's why we're here today. We're here today to send a message to City Hall, to Diane Watts, that we are not going to allow this war criminal in here on October the 20th. Now today, May 2nd, voting day was the first of 3 major actions leading to October the 20th. Now I do want to announce that we have a number of people that will be speaking on October the 20th, but in particularly Cindy Sheehan, whose son was killed in Iraq in this bogus war on terror by the Bush administration, who was just following the Wolfowitz doctrine, and basically...
So we're asking the good mayor to look at the law, to read this law, and I'll give you these 2 articles to present to her. It's in black and white. We're trying to do this very peacefully, and we all feel that we're all a part of the same human family, and that we have an interest. We do not want to be seen as harboring war fugitives, war criminals. We don't want to be seen. So we need to see from our law enforcement agencies, regardless of what Stephen Harper or Diane Watts might do, we need to see from our law enforcement officials some respect for the rule of law, some willingness to say there's an aspect of law enforcement that is not supposed to be governed entirely by politics. And if politicians are governing the police, we don't really have law enforcement agencies. We just have political enforcement agencies. We can't take it anymore. It's disgusting. So it's so important for the decency and good future of Canada that our young people can grow up feeling a respect for our police, for our institutions, for our democracy, and not feel that it's entirely corrupted by the war machine, which seems to contaminate, just like they're contaminating with depleted uranium, creating terrible crimes against children in Iraq.
Equal rights of nature. Look at what's going on in Fukushima. That is not isolated from this out of control military juggernaut that is becoming the core of the economy, the privatized terror economy. So he kept George Galloway out. He let the wrong George in and kept the wrong George out. So in reality, the precedent's been set. So again, we want to thank you. We're going to convene our talk now, and we thank you for hearing us. But we had a duty to advise you of the law and to advise the mayors of the law, so that you take it, you tear it apart. You've been advised, because we are coming back, and we're going to continue until we stop him from coming into this country. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
You say it's legal, and the lawyers told me.
Yeah.
Critics say that you got the Justice Department to give you the legal guidance and the legal memos that you wanted.